welcome. Hi, everybody. I'm just a bit getting myself organized. I tried to upload my video file and it's too big, so I'm just, you might have to give me just a second to get that going because I'm still working on that. I had to split it in half, and for some reason, when I did that, it hasn't happened yet. I'm waiting for it to come in. So this is off to a really good start. Hi Annette, great to see you. I don't know if anybody else is here yet. So let me know that it's working because choose a smaller file. Oh dear. All right, let me see if there's another way that I can do this. I might have to do it by, oh gosh, share screen maybe. It was telling me it was too big. This is really good, isn't it? Hi Sarah, how are you going? So off to a really good start. Let me think, how else can I do this? Yeah, if we can actually get it going in it. All right. I'm trying to think of another way to do this because I've got all the slides in one PDF and now I don't know how maybe I can share screen. Let me see if I can do that. Share screen, and I'm getting all these prompts now coming up and it's not letting me do something. Oh my goodness. All right. Bear with me still. Bear with me again. Now we've got a settings thing and spinning wheels and I don't know what's going on now. Damn it. All right, let's get out of that. Talk amongst yourselves while I figure this out because this is now I can't get out of this thing. Okay, go away. And it says, what's going on? All right, look, what happened, Annette, I put it all into one single PDF and it's 65 slides. Yeah, I know, but it's all in one single PDF, the whole thing, and the file's too big. And now trying to figure out another way to do it is not letting me do that either. So let me see, how can I do this? I tried sharing screen, that didn't work. I tried the PDF, that didn't work. And now I'm kind of stuck and I don't really know what to do. Damn it. All right, let me see. Can I separate this file out very quickly into 65 individual slides while you guys chat amongst yourselves? That seems ridiculous. Let me see. I'm going to have a quick go and see if I can do that. Right. That means one by one. No, this is a disaster. Separate this out. Right. File, export as one slide. Well, at least I could put the oh, what a disaster. This is ridiculous. Sorry, everyone. No, adding a PDF is just exactly the same. It's very easy, but it's just that the file is too big. Look, I can do this. Now that I've got one slide, it looks like this. Here's my title screen. And I even got a prompt for that. That's ridiculous. Please choose a smaller file. The size limit is 50 megabytes. That I can tell you that one slide is. We can work it out. Just singing along. Look, why don't I tell you what I've been up to? Look, I've been off air. You've all noticed I've been off air for 2 weeks. I've been off air for 2 weeks while I worked on this absolutely mammoth. Look at this. I've got all my notes here. Mammoth presentation to give you today. And it's taken me forever, and I've been working in Canva and I've been making it look really gorgeous and beautiful and done so much research, and I've had my head down and bottom up inside websites and history files and YouTube and goodness knows what, and now it's not working. It's so it was all for nothing, and now my signal's dropped down to 1 bar. So this is a complete and utter disaster. So I think I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out how to make this work, because it's just another Lynn morning, isn't it? Look, thank you so much, Tish. I've been here, but I've just been in a fog, you know, one of those sort of mental spaces where I don't know where to go next. Everywhere we've been, Richard and I have been out and about exploring things. I've had the gimbal in the car. We've been testing places. The signal's been rubbish. I even tried, you know, going live but unlisted so that I could come back and look at it later. It didn't work. I don't know if the signal is, if it's something about driving past the coal port or what, but we seem to have hit a complete dead zone and it didn't even connect. I came back later to look at 40 minutes of video that just didn't exist. So that was a dead loss. I was going to take you through the coal port, up over the beautiful Stockton Bridge, out to the beach. Richard would go for a walk. I'd be sitting at the cafe, and it didn't work. So there's been that, and I thought, okay, fine. I've got masses of information that I'm aware of, stories. I've been to the library. I've got a library book out. I've researched this amazing story. I can tell you all about it. I just don't have images to go with it. I mean, do you want me just to tell you the story? I'm going to be largely reading from notes. I just don't have the images to go with it. So that means it's kind of doesn't have the same impact. So let me know, guys, if we've got a few of you here. Let me know what you think. I can't load the PDF. Richard's come out to see what's going on. The PDF is too big and StreamYard won't let me load it. After all that time, days and days, a week, more. And it says I sometimes disappear for 3 weeks for a true crime. Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. I just got bottomed down inside a hole and whatever you'd like to do. All right. Let's give you the story. How about I give you the story? Shall we do that? Let's take you through the story, and then you tell me whether I should go to the extra effort, go away, figure out how to pull all these slides, separate them out into single documents. I don't know, but for some reason, StreamYard is just not playing ball with me this morning. Richard says he can do sound effects, like, you know, when the Japanese Zeros are firing at the decoder, he can go pew 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 pew. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly right.
All right, okay. So here we go. Look, I even got ChatGPT to help me with the script. You know, this is how hard I've been deep down inside this story. All right. Here we go. Diamonds, World War flying aces, treasure hidden from the Nazis. This story has all the intrigue of a Bogart movie with a bit of Indiana Jones attached. How are we doing so far? My hair looks atrocious, doesn't it? I need a haircut, I think. Except it really happened. All right. So today I want to take you on a journey that spans half the globe, and right at this point I would have put in a map that shows you all these places that we went to in this story. It begins on the battlefields in Poland during the First World War. It takes us across Russia, Ukraine and Siberia, through the Far East, the subcontinent and the Middle East, to the Netherlands and Indonesia, and finally it ends here on the rugged and remote Australian coastline. Are we intrigued? Have I got you in? Are we there? Are we going to go on a journey? What do you think? Should I continue? At the centre of it all is one man, Ivan Smirnov, a pilot, a survivor, and in many ways an unsung hero. And as you'll see, truth really can be stranger than fiction. At this point here, I would be showing you an image of Ivan Smirnov. Okay, and that's in. Trisha's got pictures of the globe, so we know that we're travelling. Look at this. To understand Ivan, we have to go back to 1914, the Great War. He enlisted as a volunteer in the 96th Omsk Infantry Regiment. And I have a photo. I have a photo of the 96th Omsk Infantry Regiment. I'm not even sure how to say that. OMSK is how it's spelled. At the Battle of Lodz in December 1914, Ivan's regiment of 90 men was reduced to one survivor. That survivor was Ivan. A total of 300,000 soldiers from both sides, Germany and Russia, lost their lives in this battle. Imagine that for a moment. 90 men in, one man out. For many, this alone would be a desertion or retirement trigger. And that says, I don't need to see a picture of Smirnov, but you could pour me one. Oh, and that, you know, it's 7 a.m. here. I don't have vodka out at this time of day. And I did check to see if Ivan Smirnov had any connection to the vodka brand, but apparently there is none. So anyway, it's just a nice Russian coincidence. Okay, so wounded badly in the leg by machine gun fire, he spent 5 months in recovery, and in that hospital ward he made the connections that would send him skyward, quite literally. And at this point I have a magnificent photo of a canvas and timber bi-wing plane, several in fact, to show you. Where am I up to? He transferred to the Imperial Russian Air Service, or IRAS. Now understand that aviation at the time was still in its infancy. These weren't sleek metal planes, they were fragile, wooden canvas machines, open cockpits, unreliable engines, freezing wind, tearing at your face. And that says it's 5 p.m. somewhere. Well, yeah, of course it is. Who's that meant to be, Tish? It's spelled different. Oh, Smirnov or Smirnov. Yeah, sometimes it's got a V at the end, sometimes it's got double F at the end, and it's more to do with the transition from what script we use. Is it called Roman, Arabic? Whatever we use, as opposed to the Cyrillic script and the interpretation of that final letter and the way that we say it. So that's why it's sometimes depicted as a V and sometimes it's depicted as double F. In fact, I've seen his name spelt both ways in all the retelling of this story. Okay, so where are we? But Ivan thrived. He flew the Nieuport 10, I have a picture of that, the Morane Saulnier, the Nieuport 17, and eventually the Spad 7. I have pictures, all of those. And he didn't just fly them. He mastered them. He recorded 11 confirmed victories during his time with the IRAS, becoming one of Russia's leading aces. By the time the revolution broke out, and at this point I have magnificent photos of Lenin and the propaganda poster for the October Revolution. By the time the revolution broke out, he had more flight hours than any other pilot in the Russian service. But history was shifting. In 1917, the Bolsheviks seized power in the October Revolution. For officers like Ivan, it was a very dangerous time. As you can imagine, the Bolsheviks encouraged uprising from the ordinary people upwards. So it was peasants against people in positions of power or wealth. And that included officers. So his own men, service enlisted men, were actually murdering officers. So he and a couple of his comrades, fellow pilots, they did the only logical thing and they made their escape. They commandeered a car, they drove to the nearest city, slipped onto a train and headed east. Lodz was where they were based, so that's in a part of Ukraine. They hopped on a train to Vladivostok, literally 10,000 kilometres or halfway around the world. So we've gone from a corner of Ukraine right over to the far eastern corner of Russia. It's the Trans-Siberian Railway. And I've actually got an image from 1917 of one of the train stations where there's a group of people sitting at a train station along the Trans-Siberian Railway. They were racing ahead of the revolution itself, with danger always just a few days behind them. Their destination? Vladivostok, on Russia's far eastern coast. There's all these symbols coming up, and I don't know what they are. What are you saying there? Oh, is that Russia? Yeah, okay, got that. When they arrived, they pleaded with the embassies. They were turned away by the French and then by the Americans, but the British agreed to take them. What followed was a 9-month odyssey through Hong Kong, Shanghai, Saigon, Singapore. I've got travel posters from the 1930s of Hong Kong. Oh, that's the soldier symbol. Thanks, Annette. And I've also got a map showing his journey from Vladivostok down to Singapore. From there, he went on to Rangoon, excuse my notes, Colombo, Aden, and then on to the Suez. And I've got another map to show you here of that journey from Singapore up through you guys are amazing. You're showing little pictures to help me. Now I get it. Thank you. And so then he spent a short time flying for the British RAF in the Suez, and then during that time he flew 4 more planes that I don't actually have listed here because their titles were actually on the slides, but there were 4 more kinds of planes there that he was flying. And eventually he left the Suez and went on through Port Said and Alexandria and on to Portsmouth, where he enlisted with the British RAF. So, where are we? Imagine that journey, 9 months by land and sea for the sake of your own survival, which obviously that was just a survival instinct to just get out, go wherever you could. Once the war ended, Ivan could have faded into obscurity, but he actually found himself a position as a flight instructor, teaching. As you can imagine, he was teaching, there were other Russians who managed to escape Russia. He was actually teaching other Russian pilots how to fly. This time it was the Sopwith Camel, and I've got a nice image of the Sopwith Camel to show you. So he spent a short time giving flight instruction, but the flying school closed down after a few months. So now he's at a bit of a loss. He found his way to Amsterdam and joined up with KLM. And so this began his period of amazing pioneering. So it says, but instead he shaped the future of aviation. First a short spell instructing on the Sopwith, then he joined KLM, the Royal Dutch Airlines, and spent 25 years forging new routes across Europe and into the Dutch East Indies, which is now Indonesia. KLM is the Dutch airline, Tish, so it's, I had it written down somewhere what that actually stands for, but it's the actual National Dutch Airline. Really long, really long name. You know what Dutch words are like. And so that he was flying out of Schiphol, and basically he was forging new routes because the Dutch actually at the time had the Dutch East Indies. They were flying, they needed to get between Amsterdam and Java. And this gave the opportunity for KLM to actually set those routes in motion to create flight routes. His greatest triumph came in 1933 when he captained the Christmas flight to the Dutch East Indies. And when he returned to Amsterdam in the Pelican, that was the name of the Fokker plane that he was flying, tens of thousands of people lined the airfield at Schiphol to cheer him. Because there were lots of Dutch people living in Indonesia, in Java, in the Dutch East Indies. And so to have that connection in a shorter space of time between family members from Amsterdam and Java was incredibly important to those people. So he was held up as a hero for actually forging that flight route. It was celebrated later in lots of different ways. I've got images to show you of a stamp issue that celebrated the route. It was called the India Line, INDIELIJN, India Line. And I've got an amazing map that shows all the different ports, the stops along the way. Hi Lynn, how are you going? I've got no slides to show because because it didn't work out for me. So I'm actually just narrating the tale that I was going to tell without images. You just have to use your imagination. We're about halfway through, and wonderful to see you, Lynn. So that his achievement was celebrated in stamp issues. We've got jigsaw puzzles. There's all sorts of memorabilia that celebrate the achievement, the accomplishment of actually opening that route between Amsterdam and Java. The newspapers called him a hero. The India Line route he helped establish would become the world's longest air connection at the time. And by now he had taken Dutch citizenship. He'd married a Danish actress. Her name is Margot Linnet. I've actually got an image of a poster of one of the movies that she was in. And she was often compared to Mary Pickford. She was like the Danish equivalent of Mary Pickford. She was a very cute little big eyes, blonde curls, and very cute. And so she was always compared to her. And they set up their life in Java. So basically they moved out there, they settled down there. Excuse me. And it must have seemed like he'd left war and hardship behind him. But as we know, history has a way of repeating. And let's put the wedding ring on. I love you guys and your pictures. You're really helping me out here. Brilliant. So World War II breaks out, and once again Ivan takes to the skies. They actually, during this period when he was flying again in a military capacity, they relocated to Naples. So Amsterdam was no longer suitable as a head office or a destination for the India Line. They relocated to Naples. Margot and Ivan set up in Naples, and they were flying between Naples and Java. So World War II breaks out. Once again, Ivan takes to the skies. He spent his time flying evacuation missions from between Java and Australia. So they were evacuating people out of Java, Dutch people, out of Java to Australia, which was the closest place to evacuate to, basically. So he was taking Dutch women, children and VIPs from Java to Australia. The closest point between Java and Australia was Broome on the northwest coast. Once again, I have a nice map to show you of that route between Bandung in Java and Broome in Australia. It's a 2,000 kilometre trip, and he regularly shuttled that route, evacuating people out. I've also got some great photos to show you of the prisoner of war camps, that people who did not succeed in escaping the Dutch East Indies at the time that the Japanese invaded, spent the rest of their time in. They were atrocious, absolutely torture chambers, people living in like the space of 2 rooms in a very, that kind of residence in Indonesia as it was always very small, but then try and cram 8 families into a space that should have held 1. And that's the conditions that the women and children were living in Indonesia. Imagination emojis, soldier and suitcase. Thanks, Annette. Okay, so that brings you kind of up to date with what his situation that led to the fateful night on March 3rd, 1942, when he takes off in a Dakota DC-3. The plane is crammed, a crew of 8 passengers, including a young mother. Her name is Maria Van Toyn, and her 1-year-old son. All but one of the seats had been removed to save weight in the plane. Maria had the seat with her child. Everyone else sat on the wooden floor for the 8-hour flight between Java and Broome. Just before takeoff, the airfield manager rushed on board with a small package. The package was about the size of a cigar box. And he said to Ivan, deliver this to the Commonwealth Bank in Broome on forwarding to Sydney. He said the contents are very valuable. Ivan had no idea what was in the package. This is like the old game show where you try to figure out the phrase from the pictures, but in reverse. Yeah, exactly. He placed the package in the first aid box. Hours later, they approached the Australian coast. They saw smoke. Broome had just been attacked by the Japanese. In Broome at the time, in the harbour, were a whole lot of flying boats that were being used in the war, and they'd just been attacked by the Japanese. So these are the ones that they literally left Java hours ahead of the Japanese invasion. So it was only sort of within a few hours that the Japanese actually landed in Bandung after they departed. Okay, then they saw three Zeros, Japanese Zeros, that spotted the Dakota. So it attacked, the Zeros attacked this plane that Ivan was flying. It was strafed. The gunfire ripped through the fuselage. Ivan was hit. He was actually hit in the arm and the leg, as were several passengers. You can imagine what the chaos must have been like, with bullets ripping through the fuselage and passengers screaming. Some of them were hit by the gunshot fire from the Zeros. Tish has got a target emoji. So with the engines failing, he aimed for the beach. They had just crossed the coastline, or just approached the coastline of Western Australia, about 80 kilometres north of Broome. So they could see the smoke from Broome, but they hadn't quite reached it yet. They were just kind of coming down the coast. So he aimed for the beach. He thought that would be his best chance of survival. The plane had obviously been hit. One of the engines was on fire. And one of the landing gear had been hit as well. So as it hit the beach, it skewed, but luckily, as it landed in the water, that doused the flames of the engine that was on fire. It says, with engines failing, he aimed for the beach. The plane skidded, landing gear collapsed. One engine caught fire. The plane ended up in shallow water, dousing the engine fire on impact. And then the Zeros came back again, strafing survivors as they tried to escape the wreck. They had landed at Carnot Bay Beach, so C-A-R-N-O-T, Carnot Bay Beach, 80 kilometres north of Broome. And I've got a magnificent aerial shot of what Carnot Beach Bay looks like now. It's remote. There's nothing near it. To get there by road, there is a road there, but it's a long, dusty road. It takes you hours from anywhere to get there. It's still a very remote location, so you can just imagine what it would have been like all those years ago, back in the 1940s. Isolated, endless sand and scrub, 80 kilometres north of Broome, remote, harsh and inhospitable. At this point here, I was actually going to share a video with you, if I could have got that to work as well, sharing the screen. So there is a short video of one of the survivors was interviewed not so long ago, and he related the story of that time when the plane was attacked and when they landed, and then the survival afterwards. So there were two episodes of about 4 minutes each that I was actually going to share with you, of him actually being interviewed and sharing his story. Fascinating, just to hear from his own words exactly what he experienced. So in the days that followed, some died of their wounds. A crew member, Jupe Blau, and the young mother died within hours of landing. A passenger, Dan Hendricks, and baby Johannes died over the next 2 days. The survivors tried to distill seawater with a blowtorch. There was no fresh water anywhere near the beach. They had minimal success actually trying to distill water. Smirnov dispatched 2 men in search of fresh water, but they returned empty-handed. The fellow that was interviewed in that video struck out south, because that was the direction for Broome. They knew that they were near an inlet, so he headed in that direction, thinking that might be a source of water, but they just did not find any. It's desert country up there. He instructed one of the fitter passengers to return to the wreck and retrieve anything that could be carried. So this included a small amount of food and drink, parachutes that could be used as shelter, and the package. It's unclear what became of the package at this point, whether it was left behind or lost when a wave hit the man while returning to shore, but that was the last that anyone from the Pelican had to do with it or knew of the package or what happened to it. Now, in the interview with Peter Kamarus, his name was, he actually said that Ivan Smirnov showed him the package during the flight. So he said, come here, take a look at this, showed him the package. He says there's thousands of worth value in this package, but also apparently he had no idea what the actual contents were. So it's unclear what became of the package at this point, whether it was left behind or lost when a wave hit the man while returning to shore, but that was the last that anyone aboard the Pelican had to do with it. Smirnov dispatched 2 parties of 2 to head out in search of help. One party headed south, aiming for Broome. It's fair to say that they became lost and disoriented because it turns out that they were actually heading east when they should have been heading south. A local Nyul man encountered one of the parties, wandering exhausted, while the other managed to reach the Beagle Bay mission, which is actually to the northeast of where the wreck was. It's about 50 kilometres away. I think it took them 3 days to get to the mission. So from the mission, 2 small planes flew over the survivor camp, and they were dropping parcels, and in the parcels were notes, and they were letting the people know that help was on its way, that a help party, a rescue party had been dispatched from the mission and would arrive tonight. They sent out a party with a wagon and mules, so it was going to take hours for the rescue party to reach the wreck, but at least they knew that help was on its way. So they had, when they opened the packages, I had photos to show you of 2 of the notes that said, we'll be with you tonight, and darn those Japs, or something of that kind was in the note. Okay, so what happened next? So they were rescued. They must have been feeling amazing at this point, because at one point they actually believed that was the last they would see of the 2 men that were dispatched to look for help. They actually believed that they would die on that beach, that help wasn't going to come, that they were destined to spend their last days there. So amazing feeling to actually be rescued. So they were evacuated firstly to Broome and then on to Perth. So they all were obviously hospitalised after their ordeal. And it was while Ivan was in hospital in Perth that he was visited by the police and a representative from the bank, quizzing him on the whereabouts of this package. That's the first that he knew of what the contents of the package was. It was only then that he discovered what it contained. Diamonds worth up to 300,000 Australian pounds at that time in 1942, or roughly $25 million in today's value. So that's what was in the package. But he basically said, no, this is what happened. We believe that the package is lost to the sea. It's either in the wreck or at the bottom of the sea. He had no idea. So this is where we meet our second character in the story. A bit of a rascal. He became nicknamed Diamond Jack, and you're going to find out why. So Jack Palmer, John is his actual name, and he was known as Jack. And this is where our second character comes in. Jack was a pearler. So basically up in Broome, you may or may not be aware, it's pearl country. So he captained what's called a lugger, a pearl lugger. And pearl luggers used to work the shoreline around the Broome area. Broome has a very dramatic tide so it goes out for a very long way. And these boats used to just lie on their side, on the sand, for many hours at a time, while the people on board went out searching for pearls. So he was a pearler. He worked the luggers off the Kimberley coast. These were beautiful wooden sailing vessels built to withstand Broom's extreme tides. He was also a beachcomber, which basically meant he was an opportunist. So he would be constantly scouring the coast, looking for anything of value. And he'd heard about the crash of the Pelican, so he sailed to Carnot Bay to have a look for himself. Accounts vary at this point as to what actually the exact details. Some say he found the package poking out of the sand. Others say that it was located inside the wreckage. What's certain is that what's certain is that he opened it, and inside he discovered an absolute bounty in diamonds. So one of his stories was that when he opened the package, a lot of them spilled out into the water, and he only managed to retrieve some of them. So this becomes clearer later. And it was later established that the diamonds belonged to a Jewish firm based in Amsterdam. So that's how they came to be how they came to be in Java, is that they were being saved from plunder, basically Nazi plunder. So a Jewish firm owned the diamonds, sent them out to Java, which in itself must have been a risk. Sent them out to Java for safekeeping. So when the Japanese were invading, they were on sent to Australia, once again for safekeeping. Okay, so he hid the largest stones in 2 aluminium salt tins. The remainder of them he wrapped in rags. And then, true to form, Jack bragged. Now, I've got some pretty cool photos of Jack. They're old and they're a little bit difficult to see, but here he is. He's wearing sort of like daggy trousers, a white singlet, grubby white singlet. You know, he's unshaven. He just looks like a scoundrel. So you could just have to imagine that sort of scoundrel character. And then, true to form, Jack bragged. He was big noting himself. He had to tell his mates, oh, look what I found. Look at this, mate. Check this out. And he strutted about town boasting about the fact that he's never going to have to work again. Not real smart. Soon diamonds began popping up in town, and they didn't really understand the value of them. I mean, they were being traded for things like, you know, a quantity of tobacco. You know, ludicrous trades were being made, and they were turning up all over the place. So perhaps realising how things were looking, he decided to hand in the largest stones, the ones in the 2 containers, to the police. He strutted into the police station and literally stood there going, here, opened one of the tins and just scattered it across the top of the desk. And you can imagine the commander of the police station just being like, what the... Okay, so he insisted that this was everything he'd found. He insisted that he was handing in the lot. That's all there is, mate. An investigation was launched. Jack actually accompanied an investigation team to the wreck site, and they found nothing. He was charged. He was charged with theft, but was found not guilty because the court couldn't actually prove that he'd stolen anything. I mean, you know, it was pretty obvious, really, but they couldn't prove anything. He stuck to his defence. I handed everything I found, mate. Okay, so that was basically it. Ivan Smirnov continued flying, eventually retiring to Majorca in the Mediterranean. He died in 1956, living out a peaceful life in the Mediterranean. The beach where the Pelican crashed has been named Smirnov Beach. A simple memorial was erected there. It consists of a cross on top of a plinth with one of the plane propellers sort of angled across the front of it, and the names of the 4 people who lost their lives, the remainder of the crew and passengers, and also the rescuers are all noted on a plaque on that beach, and it's still a very difficult place to get to. Jack Palmer became known around the traps as Diamond Jack and spent his remaining years in unusual comfort. Inexplicably, he owned a house and a new car, until his death in 1958. And every so often, another diamond would mysteriously appear. And rumour has it that there are still diamonds out there somewhere. So there you have it, from the freezing battlefields of Europe, through a daring escape across Asia, to the skies above Java and the beaches of remote Western Australia. The story has everything: adventure, survival, tragedy and mystery. Heroes and scoundrels, and at its heart, Ivan Smirnov, a man who never sought treasure, only doing his duty as a pilot. The diamonds were meant to be hidden from the Nazis. Instead, they vanished into the red sands of the Kimberley. And who knows, there may still be some out there today. And that's basically the story of the Kimberley diamonds. So, there you have it. How was that without visuals? And believe me, it was an impressive visual that I had to show you, to share with you. I might have to share it somehow. How do I share it now that it's a PDF? I don't know. All right, so what do you think, guys? Everyone's gone quiet. I'm going to have a cup of tea. I'm going to have a sip of tea while you tell me what you thought of that. Are you still there? Richard made me a cup of tea, and now it's cold. But I've got, you can see my cup here. You liked it, Tish? Oh, I'm glad. All right, so that was my first foray into doing a presentation, and yeah, big fail. It's been done as a documentary, Tish, and there's been several books written about it as well. So yeah, it's kind of a story that I actually wasn't even aware of until I got a little book out of the library, which tells a whole lot of interesting stories, unexplained stories, ghost stories, other shipwrecks, all sorts of stories in a little book like this. And I was reading it, and this one just really piqued my interest. So I thought, well, let's dig deeper and see. Let's see what comes of it. Thanks, Sarah, and with Annette's and Tish's emojis. All right, well, that's kind of it. Tomorrow we're heading up to a place called Quirindi. It's spelled with a Q, Q-U-I-R-I-N-D-I, Quirindi. It's about 3 hours from here. And thank you. Look out for the upcoming children's book. We are heading up there because Rich is going to visit his mother. That's where she's located. She's in a aged care facility up there in Quirindi. But there's an amazing a painted grain silo up there that has a sound and light display, and I'm going to go live with that tomorrow night. I know that doesn't work for you guys in the Americas. Hopefully you can catch up with the replay. It is supposed to be really, really good. So that's at 7:30 tomorrow night, my time. Do you want to see the fence? There's a bit more I've added to it. It's got birds. It's even got a couple of little kangaroos. And I could show you my vegetable garden. We've built a vegetable garden. You interested? You want to have a look? Sarah says, well done, both of you. Just says, yes, please. All right, okay. Okay, let's take a look. Let's see the fence. Okay, let me just get some shoes on. Which are down here. Oh, and we built the table. That was where I was sitting. So you heard about the table saga, flat pack. Got there. Yep. Got that done. Didn't take us too long in the end. All right, here we go. I just need to get away from the sun, so we'll get down the stairs first. Okay, here we go. All right. There's Okay, there is a goanna, and there is vague shapes of kangaroos. This is my favourite bit though. I can't even see what you're looking at because my computer's turned backwards, but hopefully you can see the two cockatoos. And here's the veggie garden. And the fire pit and what it did to the grass. So let's get back inside. The grass is wet. There was a bit of a heavy dew last night. All right, leave my shoes outside. They can go there. All right, there we go. That's it. So look, my ankle is still giving me trouble. So this is what's slowing me down, and also only having access to one car is slowing me down a little bit as well. Because Richie goes off and does band practice, and then we're trying to work. We're working with my physical ability, lack of signal, going back to places that I've done before, and then finding that the signal's an issue. Yeah, we're going to get some pavers, and our neighbour across the road has offered to give us some pavers, so that's all good. We'll get those down. Excuse me, got a bit of a dry throat this morning. So yeah, I think I'm back to video editing for a while, and I really want to go back to the botanical gardens because the orchids will be coming out soon. But I've just kind of hit a bit of a wall, and I'm still trying to figure out, still trying to figure out how I'm going to continue to deliver live streams moving forward, because I do want to, but it's just trying to pivot and figure it out and work out how that's going to look. So stick around. I'm still here, and of course I'm still really working hard on making sure that there's always content for you on the calendar as well. It's more bravado than talent, Trish. I just decided, I actually went out there trying to find who could help me, who can help me with this. Pressing the nozzle on the spray can or using the roller to start with was the first nervous, nail-biting moment. But I thought, right, okay, I've started this, I have to keep going now. What's not true? Oh, the bravado thing. Yeah, okay, well, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. All right, okay, well, I think that I've been rabbiting on long enough. Rich is getting ready to make breakfast. He's getting very impatient. He's over there sort of cutting rinds off bacon and going, come on, wind this up already. So I think I'll leave you guys to it. I'm so sorry that presentation didn't work after all the hours of ridiculous amount of time I put into it. So I'm going to try and figure out a way that I can at least get it to you so that you can see what it looked like. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. And see you tomorrow. If you're able to make it tomorrow, please join me for the Sound and Light show tomorrow night. And I know that Annette and Tish, that's not going to be work for you. But if you can catch up with the replay, that'd be great. Hope you can. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now. What's that there? Oh, bacon. It's bacon and eggs. Annette's put bacon and eggs emojis in the chat. Bye, everyone. And everyone says hi, Richard.